be starting in a little bit. Hang tight, guys. All right, guys. So last week we started building this game with Swift Playgrounds calling it Bug Matcher, but we're not using all bugs. You can see we have tortoises here, but what we are using is SFSymbols, which are just built right into Swift Playgrounds. So it gives us a nice little icon glyph that we can use and then drag around. And what we want to do this week is make it so that when I pick up my ladybug in the middle and I drop it over the ladybug up here, it will create a match. And we'll get points. And maybe if we drop the wrong thing or whatever, we lose points or something, right? So we want to make sure that there's some tension there for the player. And I couldn't really figure out how to do that last week, so I stopped the stream. But good news is I do have it working now, at least somewhat. And I'm going to show you what I did today. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is add some state variables up here to the content view, just to kind of get things started and moving in the right direction. So we're going to do some private state variables here. We need to be able to track our active bugs. These are going to be our active things, and they're going to be strings because they're SF symbols, which are referred to by strings. So we'll have an array of strings, and we'll start with repeating, and they'll just be blank to start, and we'll have a count of 2. And we're also going to have a state variable of private var, and these are going to be the player bugs. And those are going to be the ones down the bottom here. So you can see we're going to actually be kind of refactoring this code a bit to kind of bring it to a place where we can do what needs to be done. And again, we'll just set it to blank strings for now, and then once the code initiates, it'll fill these in randomly. So now we have our active bugs and our player bugs, but we're also going to need to know that this is a proper drop zone, but over here or down here aren't proper drop zones. So we need to identify the drop zones that we have. So that's going to be another state variable, private var drop zone. And those will be an array of CG recs. And again, we'll do repeating. And these will be .0 count of 3. I think I want this to be a 2. We'll see. We'll come back to that at some point. So that's where we are for those. Now, what I need to do next is basically refactor out what we're doing here. So right now I'm just placing this bug, and then I'm placing 3 bugs or 3 things in here. That's not going to work for what I need to do. I need to be able to tell them that this line item here is the active bugs, and this one is the player bugs. Not only that, but I also need to know what index number that bug is, so that when there's a match, I can swap them out. So in order to do that, we're going to need to refactor our bugs class a bit. So we already have all of this stuff going on, which is what enables us to drag the SF symbol around the screen. But what I'm going to need to do is add some more variables here. So I need an index, and that's just going to be an integer. I need so let's just stop right here. Let's just start with just the integer, just that, and then we'll add the rest of it in a second. But just having that integer, I think, is enough to get us... You know what? I'm just going to do it all, and then we'll kind of make it work. All right, so the next thing we're going to need to do is determine the state, right? So we have our state of either it's a match or it's not a match, right? So if I drop this over, it's not a match, it's wrong. So we have that, or it's undefined. So if you drop it on nothing, right? If you drop it up here, it's undefined. It wasn't a match, but it wasn't wrong. So we have those 3 states, but we need to determine what happens when it changes, when that state changes. So we're going to have a variable called on change, on changed, and this is going to be a CG point and a string, and it will return a dragged state. Okay, so we're going to get the point at which that happens in the world, and we're going to have the string associated with the item that we're holding. And then we're also going to have on ended. This is going to be when you let go, right? So it changes, but also when you let go of something, it ends. So we need to track that as well. And it's going to also be a CG point, because we need to know where in the world this happened. We need to know the index of the thing that we are landing on so that we can remove it, and the string. And this is going to return void. All right. So now we have everything we need up in our bugs initializations. So the next thing we need to do is kind of make them work. And that's all going to kind of happen in this drag gesture area here. But before we do that, I want to double the shadow, because currently it's not that noticeable, especially when the colors change. So I'm just going to double the amount. And now you can see, well, you can't see it right this second because we have an error. But once we do that, it will actually be a little bit darker and more visible. So let's finish this out, and then we will fix the error, and you can see where we're at. So really the only thing we need to do here is add on changed, we need to change drag state, right? So when this changes, we want to change it from undefined to something else. So self dot drag state equals self dot on changed, and it's optional, so we need to make sure we have that. And it's going to be location self dot name, so we can understand what the name of that thing is, and then we'll just say if nothing happens from this, so it's either that or undefined, and that will be fine there. And then inside of onEnded, we actually, so here we're basically saying there's a variable coming into this drag gesture happening, right? And you can't just ignore it. So we have basically underscore in, which says we know there's something here. We don't need it because we're just doing dragged amount 0. But we're going to change this. We're going to add an if statement here. And you're going to see it's going to complain when I do this. So dragged state equals dot matched. So if we have a matched state, then we're going to have self dot on ended. And we're going to get $0, the location, self.index, self.name. So this is using the onEnded variable, and we're filling those things in with the location, the index that we ended on and that we matched, and the name of that thing so that we know that we have it, right? But now it's going to complain because we are actually using that item that's coming in, so we don't need the underscore in anymore. So we remove that. All right, this is basically the bugs class now that I have. It's not that big, but now we need to hook up everything that we just changed back over inside of content view. So the biggest thing here is that we've added new parameters. We added the parameter for index inside of our bug. So if I fix that, I can just say this is a number. But now we need a number. So what we're going to do is add another H. We're going to add an H stack for both of these. So we'll have, instead of having 1 bug here and 3 here, we're going to, I think, have 2 and 3 or 2 and 4. We'll see how it all fits together. But the idea is that we're going to need first an H stack so that we can have them next to each other. And inside this H stack, we're going to have a for each. And we'll do 0 to less than 2. And then number in, right? So we have that number coming in. And that number is going to be the number that we use for the index. So if it's at position, if it's the first iteration of this for each, it's going to be, the number is going to be 0, which means that the index will be 0 in this bugs array. So that's how we define that. And now one thing you'll notice here right now, I can move this turtle in the middle of the screen, but that's the kind of active bug. That's the bug we're trying to match. So we don't want to actually do that. So for this for each, for this bug, or for the bugs that are there, we're going to say allows hit testing is false. So now it will disable any ones it builds. It's obviously not going to build, but that will disable all of the hit testing. And I can fix that. I think this is the only error left. So let's fix this with a number. So now, is that it? Can't find strings in. It's not strings, it's a string. All right. Sorry if anyone was yelling at the screen there. I didn't notice that type. Waiting. It looks like we're back up. I had a little bit of a glitch, maybe. Technical difficulties. Anyone in the chat, let me know. Let me know. It says I'm connected. All right. I'm going to assume that things are okay. Little momentary drop of the internet there. Okay, so I think we're back up. Sorry about that. All right, so this is pretty simple here. As you saw, we have our bugs. They have a darker shadow now, but we still don't have that matching. I can't tap the ones in the middle, so we have that figured out. But now, how do we change it so that when I pick this up and drag it over, it knows that there's another ant there and it will turn green, or it knows there's a turtle here and it will turn red? How do we do that? All right. It's actually not too difficult. So inside of content view, we have our two H stacks. So for the active bugs, we are going to, instead of do a random bug, we're going to say that this is self.activeBugs. And then we're going to get a number here, which is going to be the same number that comes in. But obviously that doesn't exist now. So we need to kind of create that, right? We need to fill out the bugs. So that's going to be a function called, we'll do a function start game. So when our game starts, we're going to say let starting bugs equal possible bugs dot random element. And if it can't find anything, we'll just default it to ant. That way, because it's an optional, right? We need that, or we need to force unwrap it, and not everyone likes to force unwrap things. So we want to do that, and then we're going to have active bugs equals 1 to 2, and we'll map these to just like this, random bug. And then the player bugs are going to have the same kind of thing, except we're going to map these to this in self.random bug. All right. And now we need to find a place to use the start game. So that's going to be inside of inside our body. When that comes on, when the game launches, we're going to basically call the on up here. And inside here, we're going to say perform start game. So now when I start the game, now they appear. So now we have our active bugs. We will have our player bugs. We just need to swap out this random bug here for self.playerbugs. And we're going to have a number, which is going to be the number of that for each. So now our player bugs and our active bugs are two sets, or two arrays of bugs that we can use, and we can still drag these around. And now we can, because we know where they are, we know what they are, we're able to match them. So we have a couple more functions that we're going to add. So we need to know that a bug is being moved. And this is going to have a location, which is a CG point, and a name, a string. Which bug is being moved, and what bug is it? And that's going to return a dragged state. So is that bug over a match, over a wrong bug, or just undefined? So if we have it be, so if we can let a match be a drop zone, first index and then we're going to do where, and we're going to have this $0 contains. So the first item there contains the location that's coming in, right? So if that is true, then we have a match. This is contains. So next we have, so if we have a match, well, we only have a match if the name means it. That right now we know that we're over a drop zone, but we haven't actually matched anything yet. So if active bugs at match, because this is an index, right, equals the name. So if the string there equals the name at match, then we're going to return dot matched. Else return dot wrong. And then if we're not over a drop zone, so if we can't do if we're not over a drop zone, then we're going to return undefined. And then because the function is going to need just one more return function if all else fails, right? So we need to just return undefined, and that's just going to finish up everything, I think. And we need 2 equal signs here. Oh, this actually is not needed. All right. Right. So next, we need to know when the bug is dropped, and then we will hook these up in the code. So function, the bug has been dropped, and again we're going to need a location, CG point, index, and name. And if these look familiar, it's because they're the same. They're going to line up with the onChanged and onEnded variables that we had inside of the bugs class, right? So we're taking a string and a CG point for onChanged, and a CG point, an integer, and a string for onEnded. And inside here, we take a string and a CG point, or here we take a CG point and an index, an integer, and a name. So all we need to do here is basically kind of the same thing. We just need to know if we have a match. So if we have a match of a drop zone first index, we're going to do the same thing here where $dot contains location active bugs match equals name. Let's see here. Player bugs dot remove. We're going to remove it at the at the index. And player bugs dot append. We're going to get a new bug. Random bug. So we're going to append a random bug here. confused. Oh. Let me just open this up here. That's what it is. It's this. Yeah. All right. Fixed it. So we're closing that one. Let's see. We need to figure out where the first index. I found it. This. There we go. All right. And now, where do we use these? Well, I think we use these. So we're going to use these on the second in the here. We're going to use these on the player bugs, right? So we need to know the changed and ended status of those. So if I come over, let me see, where do we define this? Oh, right. All right. All right. Here, we're still going to have our index, but we're also going to have on changed. And this is going to be self.bug moved. And on ended is going to be self.bug dropped. So now we're basically tracking those two things, but only for the player bugs, not for the active bugs. So now inside here, nothing yet. Bear with me as I read through my code to figure this out. I think I need to set these drop zones up actually because they're not there yet. Yeah. I need to give the drop zones to, so we don't know that the turtle and the ant are drop zones yet. We just have no drop zones anywhere. So what we do here is inside of the bugs, we're going to add an overlay. And this overlay is going to contain a geometry reader, which will have a geometry coming in, and then we'll do a color.clear so we can see through it. And then on the appear of this, so when this is loaded into the scene, we're going to assign each one of these. So every time this for each executes, we create a new instance of a bug, right? And every one of those is going to get a drop zone. So self drop zones, and it's going to be given a number, which is the number of the for each, and that's going to be assigned to the frame of the geometry in dot global. So in the global space, we're going to assign that number. And now if I click this turtle and bring it over this other turtle, I get a match. And if I bring this ladybug over this ladybug, I get a match. But if I bring it over the turtle, it's red, right? So that's kind of the core of the game. But now we need points, and we need a timer or something to get the player, give them some tension. So that's pretty simple as well. Let's go back up to the top here, and we're going to actually we'll create a timer. So let timer equal timer.publish, and then we're going to publish every 1 second on the main thread, and in common, and then we're going to auto connect. So that will just start. And now inside of this, so where this title is, what I'm actually going to do is have the timer and the score be on either sides of that. So we're going to move this into an H stack. So I have an H stack here. And then this goes like this. All right, and we're going to need 2 numbers. So what I'm going to do is create a new file, and we're going to call this a Swift file. It's going to be called game number. All right, and then this is just a pretty simple file, just a way of getting reusing this code pretty easily. So we're going to have a struct. It's going to be a view, right? Game number view game number. It's going to be a view, and in this view we're going to have 2 variables. We're going to have a text, which is a string, and a value, which is an integer. And then this view will have the view body, some view. Basically just creating a simple Swift UI view here. It's a VStack. And we have a text, which is text, and a text, which is going to be the value. And we'll give this a font of Dart large title. Oh, hang on. Let's do large title. All right, that's all we need in game number. And then back in content view, we're going to have a game number text. This will be time, and the value is going to be time remaining, which I haven't created yet, right? So I need to create that variable. So that will be up here. Let's do let, or it's actually state variables. Let's keep these in the same place. So it's going to be a state private var time remaining equals. We'll start off with 30 seconds, and then state private var score equals 0. All right. So that's pretty simple. So now I have time remaining, and then I just need a game number here for text is going to be score, and the value is going to be score. So I gave myself a score. So now we need to make sure that these things are being updated. So for the timer, we'll have below our start game and our background here, we can do on receive. And we'll do timer. And then inside of this code here, we'll get rid of this. We're going to do if self.time remaining is greater than 0, then self.time remaining minus equals 1. And we need to make sure that we capture this value in. All right. And then where do we want to and how do we want to add scores, right? So when we get a match, let's see here. We get a match when we have the bug dropped, right? So we're removing the bug and we're adding a new bug. So why don't we here, we're gonna do score plus equals 10 and time remaining plus equals 2. So we'll give you an extra 2 seconds every time you match a bug. But let's see if we get the wrong bug. I don't know if we actually have that yet. I guess that would be kind of the next thing we would need to do is kind of punish people if, let's see. Let me see what happens. So right now we're not replacing this. You can see we have our timer. So we have this situation right now where we can't actually make a match because we have 2 ladybugs and that. So we should probably add at some point a button to restart the game. So we got 10 points, 20 points. But yeah, this would really get annoying, right? Like you just lose because you can't restart. That should be pretty simple to add. Let's just create inside of content view. Maybe put it. Just put it under everything. We just create a just create a thing, a text thing here that says restart. Text restart. And then or maybe it's like a, is it a button? Yeah, I'll figure out how to do that. I'm not quite sure exactly, and I don't want to spend too much time here. We've already been going for what are we at? We're over an hour on this. Is that right? Well, that's not right. That can't be right. So anyway, I think this is a good place to start. So we have the not matches, we have matches, we have the ability to score points. Next up, we're gonna, so next week I'll work on resetting the game board. I'm gonna work on a kind of better scoring system. So like the more bugs you get in a row, the more points you will get. And then we'll maybe even have a win screen and some game over stuff. So thank you guys for tuning in today. It's been a pleasure as always. I hope the quality of the stream was good. I know we had a little bit of a drop out there in the middle, but hopefully everything got hooked up and I haven't been talking to no one for the last half hour. So So yeah, thanks again for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.